Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Block Party number 95. Can you believe it? This is our 95th weekly 24-hour collective intelligence block party. And Miles was here at the very beginning and at the social club at the end of the world prior to that for a couple years. So we're in this for the long haul. And we're playing for keeps. And we're in the Food Healers segment, focusing on what we're going to be doing in Los Angeles. As far as I'm concerned, this is nothing short of a benevolent, peaceful, nonviolent revolution. This is a revolution. It is revolutionary to say, hey, every human being on the planet should be loved and cared for, taken care of at a basic level, right? Nutritious, delicious plant-based foods, a warm, clean place to sleep and shower, and be at peace, be safe, enjoy quiet and privacy, and access to the rest of the basics, whether it's communication, transportation, that is absolutely revolutionary, because right now we live in a world that is quite the opposite of that. That if you don't have money, you don't get to eat, you don't get to sleep, you don't get to have health care. So we're turning all that on its head. It starts with food, which is the most basic. And Marco has his hand up. Go for it, Marco.
Yeah, it was really... even though I've thought of this before, it was just really occurring to me on the scale of what will happen as many more people become vegan based on the health aspect of it. Literally, that's going to free up billions or trillions of dollars in healthcare money that's not needed and can go to that won't be needed for things like diabetes care and blood pressure. And, those are two things that really seem to drop off when you go plant-based. And just think if you only think of that amount of money that won't be spent on healthcare, how much money that frees up. That's pretty amazing. Just something to think about. And with that, I pass the talking feather.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's well known that healthcare costs are a fraction if they're done preventively, right? And the best preventive medicine is healthy, nutritious, plant-based foods. That's it. You want to be healthy? Eat nutritious, plant-based foods. It's so
if I may read my chat line. Get lively with Shively for president 2024.
Good one.
All right. Thank you, Michael. And I hereby accept the nomination on behalf of my party, the Love All, Feed All Party, which was just constituted this minute. So thank you. And Miles, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, one of the things I mentioned before is that there's all sorts of evidence that our governance in general, governments around the world specifically, are either incompetent or under the influence. Now under the influence could mean they're, partying too much, which sometimes is the case, but under the influence of other people's money. And talking about healthcare, you just have to look in the media consolidation, the Ralph Nader Radio Hour episode from August 31st, 2019, talks about how media is under the influence of money. And talking about healthcare, you just have to look at who are the advertisers on any of these big news channels, and even on public, what do you call it down in the States? NPR, National Public Radio, and PBS, even those so-called public channels, take a look at who are the sponsors and the underwriters. How often it's big pharma, Merck, Pfizer, and such. So this is where we need to just start talking about the governance being incompetent or under the influence or combination of both. And it's time to change it. We need to, as individual citizens, organize and take part daily in participatory democracy, not just thinking, oh, every 4 or 5 years I get a chance to vote. No, every day we have to be tracking and lobbying what government representatives are doing, because the system is not working. We would be much healthier long ago if science and truth was paramount. And the science and the truth is what Cortland Malloy, Washington Post reporter, talks about in this interview, and media consolidation and plant-based diets, that everything improves in health-wise. And VCOP 8, number 8, that we just got off of, anybody who's interested, go check out the Trello board and all of the free resources, all of the doctors who talk about the tremendous health and mental health benefits of going to a plant-based, whole food, healthy diet. And then, your medications, a lot of them, you'll be able to eventually stop buying and save a lot of money and add years to your life. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. And I like what you were saying about governance. And in fact, when Molly gets on here in a few minutes, we can talk about and give her ideas for the speeches that she might make at both the press conference and at the feeding event, talking about how we are transforming governance. And just come right out and say, the number one responsibility that governments all around the world should be focused on is feeding their people nutritious, delicious, plant-based foods. Full stop, as simple as that, period. Number one, if everyone is cared for, if everyone is taken care of, our risks of going to war will plummet, right? Especially as all governments around the world embrace that. And in fact, I like what you're saying, Miles. For me, there's a critical distinction between government, because that implies a certain model, versus governance, which is the people governing themselves as the ideal. Direct democracy, why not? We have the technology. Everyone could be voting on multiple issues every day, right? And why not? Michael has his hand up. Go for it, Michael.
To illustrate Miles' point, I listen to MSNBC on Sirius FM, and they have a commercial called Moink. It's Moo plus Oink. It's a ranching company or a ranching family who sells meat from the ranch, and the woman who is the narrator is just so smug about selling meat and how clever the name of her company is. But that's MSNBC, that's they're supposed to be progressive. Thank you.
Yeah, and on radio now here in Alberta, where I live, you do regularly hear the dairy industry coming on, talking about how they care for animals and how they're so-called good for the environment. They're on the ropes, because truth is truth. And it doesn't matter how much propaganda any organization tries to push. Eventually people catch on, and things change irresistibly. And that's where these oat milks, soy milks, almond milks, macadamia nut milks, they're like exploding all over the shelves. And just my wife just told me yesterday, in the New York school districts, because of the new mayor, or I guess he obviously played a role, the new mayor of New York is vegan. Now every Friday, the children will be getting vegan meals on Fridays. Well, in short order, everybody's going to recognize that the vegan meal is healthier, it's more flavorful, and tastes great, and the kids are doing better, you know. So eventually that will spread, not to just Fridays, but it'll be vegan every day. You know, and when I talk about incompetence, I just want to say, you know, we're all incompetent. I'm actually starting to think I'm going to just adopt, I'm the incompetent vegan, because so much of our situation is so skewed to the wrong way that, you know, none of us can actually completely necessarily say we're totally vegan when, you know, for example, I raised this on the VCOP. It occurred to me, just because I buy from Jeff Bezos and Amazon, and that man, this is according to Deutsche Welle, the German national broadcaster, their reporters report that he makes personally $100 million per day. Now, I bought a part for my stove the other day just because I went to some storefronts, some appliance dealers, and they kind of looked at me like, why don't you get with the 20th century, let alone the 21st century? You don't go to a store anymore for a stove, an oven part. You just go online. And sure enough, well, I end up buying from Amazon. So in a way, you know, I'm thinking, I just supported Jeff Bezos and Amazon. And until they're vegan, you know, I'm kind of a incompetent vegan. But anyway, I'm digressing, but just attacking the incompetence of ourselves and our government representatives. It's just the reality is there's too much information. There's so much that we don't know. We are all incompetent. Let's just admit it and get on with it, right? And we're here to actually help government representatives. They need our help because there's just too much change and information to process.
Beautiful.
I would beg to differ that you're incompetent, Miles. I would beg to differ. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I am trying, you know, and that's what we have to all do. Try our best, right? You know, because one of the most profound things I learned recently is that you can consider God as reality. And one of the complexes I've had all my life is baptism. And the only baptism that really, the true baptism, is reality itself. And we're all being baptized right now. We got to recognize it and we can change it. We can respond to it. That's why we're here. We are all here to learn, continuous learning, courage, clarity, and creating. It's the year of the tiger, apparently. And that's what the tiger is all about. Courage, clarity, and continuous learning. So thank you, Michael.
And I'm just going to jump in real quick. Something I've been seeing more and more lately is the power of the words we use. And I would try and stay away from calling yourself the incompetent vegan. I'm sure if you can put some positive phrase in there, it's better. And I can't stress enough that how much I've seen lately the power of words we use, especially the words we use about ourselves, are important. And with that, I pass the talking feather.
I've heard, yeah, thank you. I've heard of that strategy as well. And I think it is important to always keep in mind the positive word. So shall I say the continuous learning vegan?
Yeah, that sounds great. See, that's positive. Speaking of positive, welcome, Nancy. Welcome, Gwenna. We've been having a pretty cool meeting up until now, but with you ladies here, now it's perfect. Welcome. All righty. Okay. Well, and just to be clear, we are in the midst of the Food Healers segment of the 24-hour Collective Intelligence Block Party. That's what we've been doing for the last half hour, and we'll continue to do so for at least the next hour. So, related to Food Healers and Love All, Feed All, we are preparing for our events in a couple of weeks in Los Angeles. Gwen is in Los Angeles. Oh, James is joining from Ireland. Awesome. And Gwenna, we just figured out yesterday that we're going to do the press conference. Here, let me say good morning to James. James, good morning.
Morning all. Sorry I'm a bit late.
No, you're perfect. You're perfect. Thank you, James. We're just talking Food Healers Los Angeles, and that the press conference that we're going to do on Thursday, the 17th of February, we're going to do it on the steps of City Hall. So Gwenna, I would love it if you can join us there on the steps of City Hall. Late morning Thursday. Molly's going to give a speech at noon, which is lunch hour. So a lot of people will be coming out of the building, and a lot of people will just be on the street generally at lunch hour. And I'm going to be there with my Darth Vader costume, just like I was at COP26, with a big speaker, amplification, singing songs. We'll be making speeches. And let's go ahead and talk about some of the main themes and things that we want to be communicating to the world at the press conference. Building off of what we've been talking about right here in this room in the last hour, we can talk about revolutionizing and transforming governance, right? Molly can say, as city council member, right, I will be blah, 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 right? I think two of the most important revolutions are the revolution in food. This new form of governance can take on a revolution in food, nutritious, delicious, plant-based foods for everyone as a basic human right, right? No money needed, totally money-free. And another is a revolution in democracy, right? Participatory democracy. Which is what we're doing right here. We're all sharing with each other. We're coming together and we're talking, right? Just like they did way back in ancient Greece at the Forum, ancient Athens. At the Forum, people would come together and just talk about what's important. Bring those two together, and you have an extremely empowering platform. Feed people and get them together, get them talking. That's how we're going to figure out our way forward as a species, as a planet, is by having conversations. In Mexico, we have a very simple saying that people often repeat because it helps remind us of something very important. The saying goes like this: Hablando se entiende la gente. And it means talking is how we understand each other. I mean, it's obvious when you hear it, but it's worth repeating again and again and again, because so often we forget. And so much of our current systems that are destroying the world are based on this concept that we can communicate just fine with each other through economic transactions, supply and demand, economic signals, right? These are all BS excuses for preserving the existing order, where, as Miles just mentioned, a Jeff Bezos makes $100 million a day.
And I will add that according to this Deutsche Welle documentary, and I'll go fetch the link for everybody in case you're not believing me, in 1/3 of the states in the United States where Amazon operates, I'm getting it wrong maybe, but a significant percentage of the states in which Amazon operates, up to 1/3 of Amazon employees also have to rely on food stamps or whatever it's now called, because Amazon doesn't pay them a living wage. Yet Jeff Bezos pulls in 100 million per day. Good grief. One of the things I'd like to also just put out there is, with the food healers, food feed everybody, heal everyone events, how about considering setting up in front of grocery stores, hopefully with their permission? You know, I've on occasion, I walk into my grocery store and they seem to have no problem serving hot dogs and hamburgers for special events. So why wouldn't a grocery store welcome food healers promoting, you know, lentils, beans, fresh vegetables, which are available right inside? And, you know, maybe here's a coupon, and also here's a little bowl of food, just like at Costco, they hand out little samplers. Well, setting up little booths, food healer booths in front of grocery stores at the entrance would be a great promotion for everybody, including the store itself, to sell its products. You know, a little demo on how easy it is to cook a bowl of rice and fry up some beans and onions and garlic and spices and chopped up veggies, and away you go. You got a healthy, nutritious meal. Here's the steps. This is the best way to do it. You know, my wife was telling me, you don't cook the garlic first. You do that last. Anyway, so I'm the continuous learning vegan.
I might add that the Safeway food chain was started by Charles Merrill of Merrill Lynch. The family still owns Safeway stores. Thank you. I think that's a great idea, Miles. I think you're onto something really good. Thank you.
Well, our vision, and Silas put it in very precise terms, is that, for example, in the greater Los Angeles area, we have a feeding station in every zip code. That's a key milestone to get, because within any given zip code, a given zip code is totally walkable from one end to the other in like less than an hour, right? And so anyone in a given zip code, if it's, you know, more or less centrally located, the feeding station, anyone will be able to walk there in probably, you know, say 30 minutes or less and get food. So for example, a family that's struggling, that's food insecure, could show up at the feeding station with, you know, a clean bucket or pot with a lid or some suitable container, right? And we fill it up. They take it home, feed their family. Done and done. How simple is that? All right, really operationalize this. And so James and I and Eddie in Cork, Ireland, did a segment. We were talking once about speech writing for Bill Gates. I used to work for Bill Gates. So let's do a little creative speech writing for Molly Baszler, next Los Angeles City Councilwoman for District 5. I'm envisioning, and of course she writes her own speeches, so let's just brainstorm a little bit here, that she can get up there on the microphone and say, I am committed to a revolution of compassion, a revolution that spans making all human needs human rights, starting with food, the most basic fundamental need of food and clean water, and then going from there to encompass shelter and healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. I'm also committed to a revolution of governance, right? Where we make government's top priority taking care of the people, starting with food. A revolution in democracy, right? Where we have ongoingly events like this, both in person and online, where we come together and we talk. We have an actual conversation about our needs, the needs of the community, and what we as city government should be and are doing to meet those needs. A revolution in what Los Angeles stands for. We can and we are, with events like what we're doing in Saturday on Pan Pacific Park, Saturday the 19th, is transforming Los Angeles into the world's first compassionate metropolis. What does that mean? A metropolis that cares and takes care of people, animals, ecosystems, pollinators, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? We can turn Los Angeles, the city of angels, city of dreams, into the world's first compassionate metropolis, wherein we will have eradicated hunger, malnutrition, and cruelty. Anyway, that's what's coming to me. Love to hear other people's thoughts. Molly Baszler will likely be joining us at some point in the next hour. That's not 100% guaranteed, but I talked with her yesterday afternoon, and she said she would try to make it. So anyway, let's, Nancy, sister, great to see you. Yes, go for it.
Hi, I just joined. It's wonderful to be here. I guess did you already cover that New York City schools are having vegan food on Fridays only?
Yeah, we covered that. I think it was Miles who mentioned that. And is that right, Miles? Did you? Okay. Anyway, and I mean, that's a great start. Just like what we're doing in Los Angeles is a great start. And so this is the beginning of a whole movement. And one of the things I'm so excited about Los Angeles is that Los Angeles is the media capital of the world, the trend-setting capital of the world. And with the power of Hollywood and entertainment and fashion and everything else where Los Angeles leads, we can create a whole new fashion, a whole new movement of communities all around the world caring for their people, feeding their people plant-based foods. So what happens in, like the old saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in Los Angeles does not stay in Los Angeles. It gets communicated and exported around the world. Looks like Miles has something to say, and then Michael also has his hand up. Go for it, Miles.
Well, I'd just add that one of the things we need to be thinking about is the the monopolizing of food, and how, for example, I was just listening to a scientist who's a specialist on insecticides, and how neonicotinoids, I think is how you say it, are being overused and being applied to seeds even before they're planted. And we need to emphasize that we also have to move to organic versions of food. And the other thing I'd like to put out there is to all the documentary makers and specialists, and there's numerous connected with Dr. Rao, that his baby in the bathtub analogy, which demonstrates how we can easily convert a lot of land that's now used for grazing and the production the production of monocultures, corn and soy, for example, to feed animals, that can easily be turned back to nature. And that's what the baby in the bathtub model is all about. And it occurred to me that a real powerful documentary just focused on the baby in the bathtub would just be a tremendous tool to educate people about why this is so important. Thank you.
Very good. More to say about that in a minute. But first, Michael. Go for it, Michael.
Just riffing on Miles' grocery store idea, we could have Food Healers brand taco filling. Everybody makes tacos. I was in Phoenix. I was astounded by how often everybody eats tacos. Unfortunately, they're always meat tacos, but they love their lime. Everybody gets a big batch of lime for their tacos. But we could have our own Food Healers brand taco filling, I'm just kind of joking a little, but I don't know. Everybody shops in a market. We could be giving them what they really, really will want, Thank you.
Yeah, and how did Jeff Bezos get started? Just picked one little idea. How can I sell books online? If Food Healers follows his model with your taco idea, how do I sell tacos online? Pretty soon we've got a vegan version of Amazon. Because he's already done the heavy lifting, right? We just now have to emulate what he does. Like as I said, this oven part that I reluctantly bought from Amazon, and I'm in Canada, he had it on my doorstep in 3 days. And it was the best price of all the other sources. So, naturally I bought it from him, but I'll buy my tacos and get them delivered to my door, Michael, the Food Healers taco, and away we go.
Well, more efficient than that is having these feeding stations, right? Where people just walk to it. We don't have to have trucks driving around, polluting, et cetera, making noise, running over kids. We can just have people walk to the feeding station, get filled up, because we're going to have them everywhere. They're going to be ubiquitous. We no longer need trucks driving around. We just need one big truck dropping off, say couple hundred gallons of stew at a time at a given feeding station, and then let people walk there and fill up.
Or you could use public transit, light rail transit if you have it in your city, or metro or whatever, because when you think about it, the feeding station could be continuously supplied with its contents just by vegans packing a bag, of lentils, or, we need some more over at this feeding station. Anybody headed that direction, pick up this bag of beets or whatever and take it to such and such street feeding station, so that's a great idea. It'd be really amazing how vegans could collectively make this all happen and not have trucks driving around. That's a good point.
Yeah. Sarah makes the point that we've already had 6 events in Los Angeles where it's Love All, Feed All, Food Healers events that Sarah has organized and brought together volunteers and gotten donations from farmers at farmers markets. So Sarah's doing a vow of silence this morning for animal rights, and totally respect that. That's why I'm reading some of the stuff she puts in the chat. But look at what one person could do with the support of all of us here on the Block Party. And now so many people have joined her. Recently, Gwenna has joined, and Gwenna is transforming. She's in Los Angeles. She's transforming a food bank to be a vegan food bank, for instance. So look at the things that we've already accomplished. And now we're talking about bumping it all up several notches and really transforming Los Angeles to be the world's first compassionate metropolis. So, and Sarah also writes that Gwenna has a weekly plant-based food bank that's already going there in central Los Angeles. So Gwenna, I would love for you to speak at the press conference and also the feeding events, because we'll have music, microphones, amplification at all of our events. So what we're doing is the press conference is on Thursday, February 17th, one day short of 2 weeks from today. And then 2 days later, we'll have the feeding event at Pan Pacific Park in West LA on Saturday the 19th. And then the following Saturday, February 26th, we're going to have a feeding event in Santa Monica, which is currently our favorite location, right? We're still exploring new locations. A couple of weeks ago, we had an event at a location that turned out not to be the greatest draw for people because it was a bit isolated from foot traffic. Santa Monica, on the other hand, has just incredible foot traffic, right? That was the site of, as Miles and Michael and other people who, like myself, weren't born yesterday, remember from the 70s, Three's Company. Three's Company was filmed there in Santa Monica. And so it's just a perfect location. It's a party, and we want it to be a party. We're bringing the food, the music, the beverages, entertainment, speeches, even comedy. We're going to get up there and have some ad-lib comedy and talking with the audience and engaging with people. This is direct democracy in action. People coming together and sorting our stuff out for ourselves, for Mother Earth, for the animals, the pollinators, the ecosystems, the cooling of the planet, et cetera, et cetera. Sarah makes the point that we need celebrities, right? Well, there's a... Yeah, go ahead, Miles.
I was just going to say, I'm not very familiar with Los Angeles, and I know it's a very automobile-focused city, but I do believe there is a transit system there. And I was just wondering if you chose your locations where you're going to set up the feeding station in maybe at an entrance to a transit hub or transit station, and that you could actually demonstrate how with a team of vegans using public transit, they can continuously feed or continuously supply the feeding station for continuous feeding, such that even I know you don't want to charge people to eat, but you could have for those that want to support, you could have a jar, saying, okay, when we run out of chickpeas, that your donation, 100% of it is going to go to sending, Susie down the transit line to replenish, the chickpeas or whatever, the bean sprouts and such. And, you have fresh food, just in time delivery from a team of vegan supporters continuously supplying the feeding station. I don't know, you're already doing that maybe?
Well, what we've been doing, as Sarah has organized, is we have a small number of volunteers who each produce a large amount of stew, like the night before, in a big pot, and then bring it to the feeding station, typically by automobile, though it could perfectly well be done on public transit. But there are definitely scenarios that we can work with public transit on achieving, and even other scenarios by like bicycle, right? Let's say there's some seniors, some disabled, other folks who can't just walk to the feeding station. We have bicycles making local deliveries, because with feeding stations in every zip code, every trip will be a short trip. And why not do it by bicycle, where you're not impeded by things like traffic jams, which Los Angeles is notorious for, of course.
And the intrinsic elegance of the vegan diet is almost none of it requires refrigeration. You don't have to be as concerned about temperature and sanitation, because it's inherently already a safe food, and indeed bicycles, public transit, people with just, bags, shoulder bags or panniers on their bicycles, they can move vegan food safely. Try to move chicken and try to move beef and pork. If you don't have it precisely monitored, you're going to poison people.
Exactly. Yeah. Nancy, go for it.
Hi guys. That's mostly true about plant foods not needing to temperature. It's much easier, but if you have a stew, you're going to need it temperature controlled, especially if you're going to have it out for a while. But it's not nearly as critical as animal products. So sanitation is 1,000 times easier, because Sarah just said the stew is temperature controlled. Yeah, that's it. It'd have to be, but it is a lot easier. That's true. You can fresh produce is easily be out. We go to a grocery store and there's just so much produce that's just out. And I think even if something does need to be refrigerated, it can still be at room temperature for a couple hours. But then there's a problem on really hot days, having it out. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, there's really, and welcome, Tammy. Good to see you, Tammy. Welcome to the Food Healers segment of the Collective Intelligence Block Party. We're talking about and planning for what we're doing in Los Angeles in a couple of weeks, and what Sarah has been doing for the last many months in Los Angeles. There's really two main modalities that we've been considering. One is serving hot stew on location to, say, people in Santa Monica who are walking by, jogging by, on a bicycle. And another scenario that we've envisioned but haven't implemented yet is transporting cold stew, fully cooked, fully prepared, ready to eat, but cold, so that you, in the transport, you minimize bacterial growth and, make it conserve the longest. Obviously, plant-based foods inherently do not go bad, do not spoil anywhere near the rate of meat and dairy foods. So there's
something I just recently discovered. We bought it as a backup in case we had trouble with our stove. You can buy these little induction stove things for not very expensive. You know, a 1-burner induction unit, and you just plug it into any regular outlet. And I'm just amazed at how fast induction stove tops will start things cooking and boiling. And so easy. Like, we actually take this now camping, where we go to a campsite and there's an electric outlet. We are in a tent, but we can put this little induction hot plate in anywhere and bring it with us. And so it just thinking of how easy it is to set up to cook a stew from raw ingredients right in front of people. Not sure, are you doing that by any chance, Sarah?
So Sarah's taking a break from talking, but yeah, one of the things that we have used is hot pots, which are kind of a bit of a larger format of exactly what you're talking about, Miles. And so where there is electricity, that's definitely a great way to go. But short of that, people have just been heating up the stew. Yeah, Instapots. Thanks, Instapots. I've mentioned hot pots, but it's really Instapots. But what we've been doing, short of, if there's no electricity and short of an Instapot, we just bring the stew already heated and ready to serve. And we serve lots of people. So it goes quickly, especially in a place like Santa Monica. And our events, as Sarah's writing in the chat, are 3 hours long. And the stew stays hot for 3 hours because, you know, it's in a big pot. And, you know, like if you wrap a big towel around it or something, you give it some insulation, it stays hot even longer. So just the thermal inertia of having such a large quantity of stew helps out for that. And Marco has his hand up. Go for it, Marco.
Yeah, just real quick, if anybody's thinking about the induction burners, you do have to have either cast iron or magnetic stainless steel pots. Aluminum doesn't work, and many stainless steel, if they're not magnetic, they won't work either. So it's actually a magnetic field that does the heating. Just a little tip there. Pass the feather.
Marco, thank you. And also, Sarah's inviting everyone to watch our live streams for people to learn about how we do it. Sarah and Annie have done a number of events on Jane Unchained, showing how they prepare the food, how they prepare the stews, etc. James has his hand up. Go for it, James.
No, just a small point there that when we were talking last night, and we mentioned, given that Molly will be doing the press conference and everything on the 17th, and that during the press conference and everything, as I was saying, it'd be a good idea to get a gauge of the crowd and who you think, you know, what size of a crowd may turn up to the Food Healer and Love All Feed All program on Saturday, because normally you'd have a certain amount of food and you're giving it out to people who are there at the day. There's no pre-advertisement done for it, is what I'm saying. But if you get a good response on the press conference, then you're more than likely going to expect a lot of people showing up to out of interest, along with the people that will be there already. So just on the chance that happens, and there is a lot of media, it would be a slight bit of a miscalculation if you ran out of food too soon. Because it wouldn't look like something that was actually working. No, sure, it ran out, they could only feed a small few people. You know what I mean? That kind of a reaction could happen. It's very possible. So just be careful and get a gauge of the crowd that you're expecting.
Definitely. Good point, James. And in fact, you know, there's a whole science of demand forecasting that we're going to be getting better and better at. Predicting how many people will be coming up to accept our food. In the early stages of this, which we're still in, that's, you know, an inherent challenge. You know, how do you predict how many people are going to be showing up to consume the stew? But over time, I think it'll be easier and easier to predict because we'll have the data, right? How many liters, how many gallons of stew did we prepare? How much of that was served in the first hour, the second hour, the third hour, et cetera? When did we run out? Obviously, it'd be great to not run out, right? But you kind of have a balance between, number one, not wanting to run out. So you feed everybody, but also not having too much surplus. But even when we've had surplus, Sarah, who's networked extensively and continues to network with other people who are doing feeding programs. So for example, 2 weeks ago in Los Angeles, our last event, we had a surplus at the end and Sarah donated it to Sister Ivy, who has We Are Uno feeding program, who was happy to take it to the houseless camps and feed people there with the surplus. And Marco has his hand up again. Go for it, Marco.
Yeah, forecasting is definitely a science, and it gets better as you have data from previous dates. I remember the one restaurant I worked at, we had every day for years back, the day of the week it was, the way the weather was, the number of reservations that were made, the number of customers that showed up, by hour, all those breakdowns. It was pretty impressive for, just a restaurant, you would think. But yeah, we could go back and look at any date, I think, as far as 10 or more years back, know what day of the week it was, the weather, and how many people in any particular hour were there, and all, reservations and walk-ins. So these things get better with time. And I'm complete.
No, really good points, Marco. And in fact, I really like that you mentioned as a function of different factors, day of the week, weather, season of the year. There's so many factors. And so, in fact, back in the 90s, part of my work was in artificial intelligence and neural networks, where we would design a neural network to take all these different inputs, and we would train the neural network based on historical data so that it would do the best job possible predicting whatever it was that we wanted to predict. In this case, predicting demand. Miles has put something in the chat. Apparently there's a guy in Venice, Los Angeles. I'm curious to know if you've heard of this person. It says, is that right? German in Venice, an LA-based vegan blogger or vlogger with 200
video blogger.
Video
like
blogger.
He's not necessarily vegan, but
Gotcha.
He's interested in improving his health. I know that for sure. But he's really charming. Just check him out. He's one of these YouTube video makers who, you'd never think that such a fellow would get such a huge following, but it's just his nature. He just rides around on his scooter most of the time, videoing events in the Venice, Santa Monica area and on the beach, Muscle Beach, he loves. And he is literally a German who moved to Los Angeles some 30 years ago. And I just think he'd be a great guy to reach out to. I don't know, maybe Sarah's already bumped into him somewhere. I would just be curious. I know she's not talking. She's on the vow of silence for animals today, but maybe she can type if she knows German in Venice.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that link, Miles. In fact, I'd like to play a quick little segment of that while we have some time. Let me go ahead and do that real quick. Here we go. Let's see here.
Welcome to beautiful Venice Beach, California. 5 months ago, I was just walking right here on the Venice Boardwalk with my camera, filming how it changed over the 30 years I've been living here. And I showed the homeless.
Okay, let me screen share. Here goes. Share sound.
Encampment in Venice and how it changed. And this video got me 1.7 million views. I couldn't even believe it. I was just doing what I was doing. And then people asked me, do some more updates about all the encampments all over Los Angeles. And that's what I was been doing. And today I just want to give you an update. You decide if it got better or not. And here's another really sad story. There's a homeless lady. She was living right here. And she passed away a few weeks ago. Her name was Victoria. And from what I heard is she had a foot infection and never went to the doctor. Rest in peace, Victoria. I did a little research online last night and I found a story. I put like a little sign right here. You can Google it. The part owner of Ben & Jerry's said they got attacked by the homeless people and 2 people actually got shot in front of his store. Before there used to be a lot of homeless encampments right here, but the police made them move because they had a lot of problems with some of the people walking in the store, stealing their donation box or jumping over the corner. The owner said there's a guy, one of the meth people, jumped over the corner and hit the employees. So he had it. He said he doesn't want to be here anymore. He's going to close the store from what I heard. But you can read the article yourself. Hollywood made millions and millions of all the movies they made here in Venice Beach. It's really sad to see it's going down. Rolling action. I wish they had nice seats like this. This is all from the movie set. They all paid extras right here. This is Hollywood, and this is reality right here. I've been in Venice for a long time. I always seen homeless people here and there, but it's never been that bad that you actually have like encampments big like this and people living right on the beach. I think because of the pandemic still going on, I think the police cannot enforce anything. They tried it, they gave some people tickets. They wanted them to tear down the tents at 9 o'clock in the morning and put them back up at night, but that didn't work either. People got tickets, but I don't think the homeless people are going to pay the tickets. They don't have any money to pay the tickets. So this is the alley where they had all the homeless tents on this side and this side. Lots of tents here, and one of the tents caught on fire right here and burnt down the whole building. I have a video on my YouTube channel, you can check it out. Homeless Encampment Fire, I think is the name. But the building is gone already. And it seems like the homeless moved from this side to the other side here. There's more tents, they weren't here before.
Anyway, that gives us a taste of it. Thank you for that, Miles. The link is in the chat if you want to watch the whole thing. So yeah, you can tell this is quite well done, these productions. He does puts a lot of work into editing with music and overlays and everything. What's interesting, I performed there on Venice with Darth Vader, as Darth Vader, back in 2018, summer of 2018. We did a whole tour in Los Angeles, hit Beverly Hills, Westwood, Venice. That walkway, the pedestrian path, bicycle path that goes up and down the coast up to and through Santa Monica, which is currently our favorite location, which is similar to that, but more green grass, kind of a whole green park along the beach. There, it's just beach and then boardwalk, right, and stores and all that. In fact, I performed right in front of the Ben & Jerry's that he was showing at the beginning of that video. So very, very familiar with that whole area. And so But Santa Monica is really a perfect location. You've probably all seen pictures of the Santa Monica Pier. It's been in movies. It's just a classic Los Angeles place. And so that's where
I'll just add, he does cover Santa Monica events too, as well as, you know, driving around other LA locations. So I'm pretty sure he'd be interested to find out what Sarah and the team are doing wherever they set up.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's reach out to German in Venice, that gentleman. Oh, Molly's here. Molly's joining now. So and BJ.
His name is Mike, BJ. By the way.
Mike. Okay, awesome. Mike. All right. All right, Molly. Welcome.
Hey there.
Hey, sorry. I'm gonna pause recording. Oh, okay. And BJ, you need to take off, get it, and feel free to say some words if you'd like, or just wave if you got to run, no problem. Great to see you, BJ. So we were brainstorming earlier about some of the things, some of the messaging that we want to get out at both the press conference and the feeding event. And some of the stuff we were brainstorming earlier is about how we are revolutionizing and transforming basic human needs into basic human rights. And basic human need number one is for food. So we start with making food a basic human right. This is a revolutionary concept in capitalist United States, where the rule up until now is only people with money get to eat and get to eat well, right? We're turning that on its head and saying everyone gets to eat. And that in turn can become one of the central elements in a transformation and revolution in governance, not government, but governance. How do we collectively, how do we collectively walk the earth as a species, right? And, so far governments in the United States have been government by the rich for the rich. What we're now, this revolution in food constitutes the most important revolution in governance, I would say, in history, where government, so for example, and Molly, don't let me put words in your mouth, but these, we're all just supporting you with our best ideas, as we talked about yesterday. But, you could say, hey, we're going to transform Los Angeles city government to be government by the people, for the people, taking care of the people and the planet. And as part of that, a revolution in democracy, right? Because with food healers, love all, feed all, we're bringing people together to eat and to congregate and to talk. And we'll have the microphones. Sometimes we'll be doing open mic, but regardless, just people coming together and sharing and meeting each other and talking, kind of like at the
building community through food and togetherness.
Yeah, that's right. Building community through food and togetherness. Just like at ancient Athens with the Forum, people would just show up and talk. And it was all totally public, totally open. And all of this becomes part of the remaking, the transforming of Los Angeles into the world's first compassionate metropolis. How cool is that? Compassionate metropolis. And what an example Los Angeles will be setting for the world. See, all this is inspirational, right? And yesterday we were brainstorming about a meme, "We are Los Angeles," right? And it goes like this: we are Los Angeles. We're not just some little rinky-dink little town out there that's just at the tail end getting the whiplash of world events. We are trendsetters, right? We set the fashion, and we are the media capital of the world. So what happens in LA does not stay in LA, right? Just as that German video blogger has millions of views, tens of millions of views, it looks like, according to what Sarah was mentioning. So that's just one example. In his case, kind of like a homemade video, right? But he has millions of viewers. So we're going to be projecting the Compassionate Metropolis to cities and towns all around the world. And when they see the results of this revolution in Los Angeles, the revolution of compassion, revolution of hope, revolution of love, love-evolution, right? It will spread like wildfire throughout the world. I mean, if I'm the mayor of Chicago and I see what's happening in Los Angeles and crime statistics plummeting, public health issues plummeting, violence, suicide, depression, et cetera, all plummeting. Why? Because Los Angeles is compassionately taking care of its people, its animals, and the planet. I'm going to say we got to do the same thing here, right? And then different communities around the world can build on the Los Angeles model and localize it to their particular community, right? And so we can all be learning from each other. But the first shot of the revolution, just like there was in the American Revolution, of which my ancestor, William Whipple, was a leader, signed the Declaration of Independence. There was the shot heard around the world. Well, the shot of this revolution, the first shot, will be heard around the world, and it will be fired in Los Angeles on February 17th. Not the first shot, but the next shot, right? Because Sarah's been leading this for many months, Food Healers, and beautifully so. And so couldn't be more excited. And this is such an important moment for humanity, because there are so many things that urgently need to happen that have all been stopped, held up, blocked, whether it's by inertia, by capitalism, by billionaires and politicians doing business as usual. So this revolution in Los Angeles, oh, Molly needs to drop off. Molly, why don't you have the last words? Since you need to drop off, or did she already drop? I think she just popped off. Need to jump off. I'll try to come back in. Okay, great. So, and she says onward together. So hopefully Molly will be back. But anyway, as I was saying, this for me, the Food Healers, it is so basic. It is so elemental, so fundamental, and it's applicable to all people in the community, rich, poor, houseless, billionaires, people all throughout Los Angeles. Everyone needs to eat. Everyone needs to eat. That's one thing we all have in common. And what the revolution of compassion, the Compassionate Metropolis of Los Angeles, will be teaching us is that we can eat compassionately. And that has two parts: food for everyone and no murder. No murder associated with, no animals were killed in the making of this meal. How about that? No animals were killed in the making of this meal. All of this maps to, is a part of this revolution of compassion. All right, with that, I pass the talking feather. And we are recording.
I'd love to see someone wear some Stella McCartney gear. She's a wonderful vegan designer, Stella McCartney. They have flop hats for $82. Sorry.
Yeah. Now, Sarah wrote, let's not use gun language. Oh, that's right. Because I was talking about the shot heard around the world. And Sarah takes exception to that, and for good reason. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that feedback. Franca, yes.
What would you like to rephrase it as?
How about how about the party heard round the world? Instead of the shot, the party heard round the world.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's one of the cool things about the Santa Monica location, Muscle Beach, etc., is that Santa Monica screams party, right? And Santa Monica on a Saturday, a beautiful Saturday, with the beach, the park, the palm trees, the pier, the ocean, et cetera, et cetera. And so what are we bringing to the party? Food, beverages, music, dance, comedy, leadership, speeches. We're bringing the fundamental elements of the party to the party for all, for free. It's public, it's open space, it's safe, everyone's welcome. So it'll be the party heard round the world. The free food given around the world, as Sarah writes in the chat. Yeah, very good, very good. You see, with collective intelligence, we can put it all together. And Michael puts in a potential acronym, PART-T, People's Alliance to Reform, Transform, and Improve Everything. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah. James says the beacon has been lit. And that's James with one of his beautiful paintings as his image. Yeah, exactly. Yes, Franca, yes.
Just a second, I need to clear my throat. So, Tony Robbins, who you're probably familiar with, he's got two major aspects of food healers in common with us. He's vegetarian, and he was very poor as a child growing up, and was very impressed when some strangers whom he didn't even know brought his family a turkey, I think it was, for Christmas or something. Anyway, it impressed him so much, he wanted to improve himself to in turn be able to feed poor families, which he has done, I think, by the millions even by now. And I wouldn't be surprised if he too lives somewhere in California, and why not in Los Angeles. I'm sure he gets about 584 requests for some kind of donations and cooperation a day. So somebody would probably have to devise a strategy to even get through to him. But he might be a powerful advocate for us.
Yeah, in fact, I think when he was growing up, he was in Venice Beach itself, that we just saw in video. I think he's from that area. Yeah.
One thing I'll just add with respect to German in Venice, I think he actually has a little storefront right on the boardwalk there in Venice. And Sarah could probably just maybe even walk over and chat with him in person quite easily, I'm thinking, if she wants to. Great.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, this has community outreach and leadership opportunities written all over it, since we'll have the microphones and the speakers, and you know, anyone who has something important to say can say it, start a conversation. This is about the revolution and transformation in governance, people coming together to sort out our affairs together, to sort out how are we going to walk the earth going forward so that we can all live and so that life can continue and actually bounce back, right? We're in the midst of the sixth mass extinction. Wildlife has just been getting decimated. All forms of wildlife, pollinators, rainforests, you name it, the oceans. So it is time with tremendous urgency that we transform the way we walk the earth as a species, right? And like the beaten down characters in the Hunger Games and so many dystopian movies where, you know, you have the huddled masses yearning to be free and but not knowing how and afraid to reach out and so beaten down and even cynical and resigned that this is the way it is and this is the way it's always been, this is the way it will always be. That's what we're turning on its head. And we're doing it big and bold with Food Healers Love All, Feed All events in Los Angeles, and speeches, again, speeches, music, even comedy. We're going to have 2 microphones that can be going at once and enabling to have some dialogue back and forth. We've envisioned doing a kind of an impromptu, just ad lib comedy routine, since our 2 food offerings are stew and smoothies. We've envisioned having 2 characters, which I'm happy to play one, somebody else could play another. Stew and smooth. Stew and smooth, like stew like Stuart, and smooth like, hey, I'm Mr. Smooth, right? And just have some back and forth and talk about it in a way that gets people laughing. Because once you get people laughing, you've won. Then with the music, get people dancing and laughing. Who wants more out of life than food, community, dancing, laughter, friendship? Speaking of friendship, per Aristotle, the highest form of friendship is people coming together and working together for the common good. That's the highest form of friendship. So, you know, we've talked about this as a big party. And I was brainstorming earlier this week on Monday with James, and we talked about the party favors, 4 big party favors, right? 2 that have to do with taking care, and a tale of 2 ships. The taking care, we'll take care of you. You come to the party, we'll take care of you. Food, beverage, community, support. You get to, if you want to volunteer, you get to participate in taking care of others, right? And therefore experience the Aristotle's highest form of friendship, working for the common good. And then the tale of 2 ships, there's huge leadership opportunities and friendship, the highest form of friendship. So these are the party favors, right? And we were also brainstorming about our vision and mission. Our vision that we articulated, and I sent this out in the email last night in the PDF, our vision is one day everyone will be playing. One day everyone will be playing. That's our vision. Playing at the new game of the revolution of compassion, right? And our mission within that vision, our mission is, let's get this party started. We just need to start and then let it grow like wildfire. And Michael's got his hand
I'd like
up.
to.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Michael, go ahead, followed by Miles.
Just a real quick thought. I wonder if we're going to have like registering voters there, registration table.
You know, that's a really brilliant idea.
I think it's worth doing. There's a bunch of orgs out there that'll show. Thank you.
That's a brilliant idea. Let me add that here. Voter registration.
And what I was going to say, you know, with respect to the party concept, that's what I noticed by watching German in Venice, that Venice Beach, yeah, it's got its problems, and it's quite the story about how the encampments of the houseless people set up there. And the German in Venice, he's shown me how, you know, in spite of that issue, nevertheless, people still flock to Venice to party. People also party up in Santa Monica, but apparently there's quite a distinct dividing line. You know when you've left Venice Beach and you've entered Santa Monica Beach, because they're a lot more uptight. They're more posh up there in Santa Monica. But nevertheless, both of those beaches are party beaches, and there's always some sort of an event going on. One of the funny things they have is an electric bike parade. People decorate their bicycles with neon lights, battery-powered neon lights, and they ride around on their bicycles in the sunset, and it's quite flashy, and there's music and dancing all the time, from what I gather, or quite often. The other connection that is fantastic to make with Venice Beach, Santa Monica Beach, and Food Healers is the connection with the oceans, because the ocean is right there. And we really need to put the ocean situation on top of people's priority lists, because we just don't totally appreciate the oceans. And I know Marco was I watched the replay of the interview on the VCOP. Captain Paul Watson of Sea Shepherd was the keynote on the Saturday. And Marco asked him if he could reach out to him to talk about marine cloud brightening. And Captain Paul Watson said, sure, get connected. Now, how about bringing Captain Paul Watson in as a celebrity with respect to this February 19 Food Healers event on the beach, on the ocean at Santa Monica? You know, maybe he could just tap in, what do you call it, virtually, right? He's unlikely to fly down there wherever he lives, but maybe he'd make a cameo celebrity appearance. Maybe Marco can connect him to the event. Thank you.
No, I love it. I love it. I mean, we're going to be broadcasting the event and streaming it right here in this Zoom room. So the easiest way is, hey, just jump in the Zoom room and you'll be part of the event virtually. I'm going to look up. Go ahead.
Jackson Browne has a song on his latest record called Downhill from Everywhere. It's about plastics going into the ocean, basically about preventing plastics from being overused. But I thought we could have Jackson's brother, Severn Brown, do a number or two, but that's up in the air still. Severn Brown.
Beautiful. I love it. Love it. And thank you for that, Michael. Now, Sarah, can you tell me the name of the exact name of the location there at Santa Monica where we've done it before? Is it the Dockweiler or is it some other place in Santa Monica? You can put it in the chat when you have a moment, please. Meanwhile, I'll show some images of Santa Monica.
By the way, Jamin, can I give you my copy of that record? Maybe you could play that number at the press conference. I could send you the digital copy of the record. I don't use it. I just bought another copy of the record.
Sure.
But I'd send it to you, okay? Because then you can link to it. I don't know how it works. I think you just click on the link and it's yours. So I'll send it along. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michael. Anyway, I'm screen sharing here some images just of Santa Monica generally. And there's the famous Santa Monica Pier. The nice thing about the location that Sarah has selected and used in the past that we'll be using again, not on the 19th, but on the 26th and probably the next Saturday after that. I mean, it's looking more and more like Santa Monica is going to be our home for our kind of essentially like our headquarters. Anyway, here's like an image of the pier. Look at all those people on the pier, people on the beach. I mean, it's a perfect location. And There's a park there. So Sarah, if you can hear me, if you could put in the chat the name of the location there in Santa Monica, so I can get some images up for that. But basically, it's a green park area right next to the beach, not too far from the pier. And you have just so many people going up and down the path there, the pedestrian path, the bicycle path, joggers, walkers, people with their dogs, etc. And there's also just tons of tourists who go there. So it's a great way of projecting what we're doing through tourists who become ambassadors of the idea, and take pictures and videos and post them on their social media. So huge opportunities to project Food Healers and Love All, Feed All from Santa Monica to the world. Passing the feather.
Well, I'll just chime in and talk about how, one of the things I never really appreciated was how much sea damage a person is doing when they are eating beef or chicken. Captain Paul Watson talked about how much of the dredging of the oceans of all sea life is just ground up to feed cows, pigs, and chickens. It's really shocking, and encourage people to go to the Vegan Healers, Food Healers, Climate Healers Trello board and look up Captain Paul Watson's presentation at the VCOP 8. But it is really shocking that we need to, as much or more so even, let the oceans heal and just stop all the fishing and let the ocean recover, because we actually get more oxygen apparently from the oceans than the Amazon.
Yeah, 80% of our oxygen comes from the oceans. And just a side note, I remember a few years back, there was a farmer on the farmer's market that raised turkeys for Thanksgiving, and he fed them this turkey feed product that had a lot of fish in it. I forget exactly what it was called, but his turkey smelled like fish. It was gross.
Yeah, that's it. I think, Food Healers on the beaches is so important to communicate what is happening in that ocean right beside the park there, because of what you described. We just don't appreciate, because it's out of sight, out of mind. None of us live on the ocean, so we are sort of oblivious of the damage that's being done. But a friend of mine, for many years, he's been a pilot for a major airline. He was actually captain on a 747. And he said, flying over the Pacific Ocean, at times, he was struck by the fact that there was like a city of lights down on the ocean. The only thing is there's no city down there. What what he was seeing from 40,000 feet are these massive factory trawlers and other vessels that are literally dredging the oceans out there, just drawing up incredible amounts of sea life indiscriminately and trashing the ocean floor. And of course, because they're way out there in international waters, nobody knows that this is happening. But it is, and it's got to stop.
More like nobody cares, and not that they don't know. They know, they just don't care as well. And the scary statistic here on seafood, only 3% of human diet right now consists of seafood. And for 3% of our food, we've nearly totally destroyed the oceans at this point. It's horrific.
Well, with Love All, Feed All, we're beginning a revolution that will spread to solve all of our problems, because it starts with food. Because with Love All, Feed All, we're addressing the #1 need of humanity and one of the 2 most important needs of the planet for healing, which is eliminating animal agriculture and transitioning to earth-friendly forms of food production. The other big one for the planet being solar radiation management, cooling the planet. So stop the killing, start the cooling. That's what Mother Earth is screaming for and urgently needs in order to save life on Earth. And because humanity has the biggest negative footprint, and it's grotesquely negative, but we also have the ability and potential to transform, to radically transform, to go from being a net destructive species to a net caretaking and healing species. And so that's why I put so much emphasis in the revolution of humanity, starting with the revolution in food and in transforming making basic human needs, basic human rights. Passing the feather.
It's almost an evolution, not a revolution. It's an evolution. If we could do a play on, revolution and evolution.
Well, it's a really good point. The way I see it, it's actually both, right? Because what we are doing is revolutionary, and it is an evolution. I mean, everything Sarah's been leading so far in the last year has been an evolution. And now it's time to take it to be a full-on revolution, but not with any of the negative connotations of violent revolutions, completely nonviolent. This is the opposite of violence. It's ending violence against animals, pollinators, ecosystems, and people. Depriving people of food is violence, is a form of violence. My goodness, it's horrific. Passing the feather.
I should have sent my chat box to you, Jamin, instead of everybody. Sorry. Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. Let me see here. Oh, yeah, I see it in the chat there. Awesome. All right. Well, we've been at it for 2.5 hours now. And in terms of the agenda, what's up next is solar radiation management. Shall we take a few minute break, give people a chance to shake it up a little bit, maybe get a cup of tea, cup of coffee, something to snack on, whatever you need. I'm going to go ahead and pause recording.